Good afternoon, my name is Betty, and today I will present the analysis that I did for the course Critical Discourse Analysis. The topic that I chose is about Geert Wilders on Twitter. So he posted a tweet on 11th of October 2020, and this tweet is an example of an indexical meaning and intertextuality within micro-marketing. In addition to that, I will analyze a tweet in response, and I have a couple more responses to this tweet that I can analyze. To begin with, as some of you might know, perhaps, is that Geert Wilders is the leader of the Party of the Freedom, the Partij voor de Vrijheid, the PVV, in the Netherlands. And this party started in 2006. It is a right-wing political party, and it subscribes to ideologies such as Dutch nationalism, national liberalism, right-wing populism. It's very much about anti-Islam and anti-immigration ideologies. And Geert Wilders has a big influence, is very active in the political discourse, and this takes place in an online-offline nexus. So the methodological framework that I used to analyze the tweet that I will show you in the next slide, I used the methodological framework of niche audiences and micro-marketing. So the model that we used to know in the public sphere is a traditional transmitting model of political communication with a sender and a receiver and a linear line. It is to be discussed if this was actually the case or if it's kind of more like an illusion. But the point is that it's not longer linear, or that's clear with with a sender and a receiver. But now you have one sender, algorithms, and a whole lot of niche audiences, and this is what we call the concept of micro-marketing. And it's all about the fact that we no longer have a homogeneous public sphere. So the theory that I use and the methodological framework that I use are based on the ideas of Jan Blommaert. This analysis uses the views of Blommaert, who claims that nowadays political discourse takes place in a hybrid media system. And this is an intertwined system of mass media and social media. Important to remember is that these niche audiences that I'm talking about are of highly vibrant nature. They are unstable, temporarily, then dynamic, and therefore one niche audience can clash radically with another niche audience, and I will show you later how that happens in the example. So a possible research question that I could use for analyzing this tweet is: how does Geert Wilders make use of micro-marketing via Twitter, and what kind of niche audiences are touched upon his particular message? To begin with, as you can see on the right side next to his name, Geert Wilders has a verified badge. That means that he's a verified user of Twitter, and it lets people know that his account is of public interest and that his account is authentic. And Geert Wilders posted this tweet on 11th of October 2020 at 12:06 p.m. Before we can actually analyze the content, we have to establish what the referential of this meaning of this tweet is as an act of communication. Basically, Wilders refers to regular treatment and operations in hospitals that get delayed because of corona patients such as Mohammed and Fatima that would occupy the intensive care. He doesn't provide any scientific research for this. What he does basically with this tweet, he refers to the idea that mostly immigrants occupy the ICU because they ignore the rules and they do not follow the guidelines from the government and the rules. Secondly, and besides the referential meaning, the tweet definitely also produces an indexical meaning. And as I have quoted from Blommaert, indexical meaning is a social meaning with interpretative leads between what is said and the social occasion in which it is being produced. Indexical meaning is the interpretation of a hidden implied social meaning in semiosis. It is what one can infer from a communication action about a person's status or level of education. So this is a very broad term, but the indexicality in this tweet are the names Henk and Ingrid and Mohammed and Fatima. They are not just regular names. They have a implied social meaning or almost a hidden social meaning. So the names Henk and Ingrid are Dutch names, and they do not just refer to random people. It indexes particular characteristics and statuses about them. So the indexical meaning is what connects a language used to social and cultural patterns. So the language that is used, so in this case, the idea that Wilders pick those names refer or I don't know how to say. Yeah, so they refer to the social statuses and characteristics of Henk and Ingrid. One could say that Henk and Ingrid refer to the typical Dutch average Joe. So a few indexicalities behind those names is that they are, among other things, they have definitely a Dutch nationality. They are born and raised in the Netherlands. They have a Dutch mother tongue. It's their first language. And they subscribe to the Dutch culture and only to the Dutch culture only. And they appear typically Dutch. So, for instance, tall, blonde, white, so like the stereotype of a Dutch person. That is how Henk and Ingrid look like. So kind of the conclusion of his tweet is that Henk and Ingrid do not deserve this treatment, and that their treatments in the hospital are being postponed. And of course, especially not due to careless non-Dutch speaking people such as Mohammed and Fatima, basically immigrants, is what he refers to. So on the other hand, and similarly, the names Mohammed and Fatima are being used to index the exact opposite characters as Henk and Ingrid. So they are immigrants and they do not have a Dutch mother tongue or not as their first language. They do live in the Netherlands, but they immigrated here, or their parents immigrated. They subscribe to two cultures, or one, which is not the Dutch one. They speak other languages, or don't even speak Dutch at all at a sufficient level. So they make use of foreign languages, they practice foreign cultures, and they appear different than a typical Dutch-looking person. And I think I forgot to read the translation of the tweet, so I will do that now, a bit late. But so the treatments and operations of Henk and Ingrid who suffer from cancer, heart failures, or other illnesses are postponed again because the intensive cares are mostly occupied by Mohammed and Fatima, who do not speak our language and do not care about the rules. Are these the facts? At Minister-President Rutte, #corona. So he's basically asking a question, and in there, his opinion is strongly formed. And it's important to remember that it's necessary, like absolutely necessary, to understand the indexical meanings of the four names to get the message that Wilders is intended to send. Because it also, this also implies his side in the political debate, so that he is the leader of a right-winged party that is against immigration in the Netherlands and against Islam, actually. So the second tweet that I analyze is a response on the tweet of Wilders, and it's definitely useful that Fatima responded because he's actually talking about her. So she tweets back to him, "I am just at home. Furthermore, you are a fascist, but we already knew that." It's valuable to remember that Fatima is an unverified user of Twitter, so just a random citizen in the Netherlands, and she has, at the time of the screenshot, which is also at the 11th. Well, she responded at the 11th of October, but the screenshot is also one day later, the 12th of October. She had roughly 77 comments, 183 retweets, and almost like 2,200 likes, roughly. So that is significantly less than Wilders. However, it's still a valuable tweet to analyze. To begin with, she takes the tweet very personal for good reasons, because he is using her name, and so that's already kind of personal, that he uses her foreign name, a non-Dutch name, Fatima. She invalidates his tweet by saying that she's at home and that she's not occupying beds in the IC, intensive care. And she calls Wilders a fascist, which we were already aware of, so she implies that we, with the saying we, she implies that more people are having the same opinion. And people that hold this opinion as well refer to the part of society that is against Wilders, so probably left-winged political party voters. So these two tweets already show that there are different normative systems in politics, and that those play a role between niche audiences, and that as a result of that, the issue of polycentricity gets even more visible. So through micro-marketing, which is addressing these niche, like different niche audiences, politicians, such as Geert Wilders, can address, like spread different messages towards different niche audience with different normative systems. And he sells these messages almost like in an aesthetic form. So, for instance, via Twitter, like everything on social media is an aesthetic form, because you can use emojis, you can use hashtags, you can tag people, you can, like, it's almost like a creative platform to transfer your opinion to other people. But his messages are not only sold in aesthetic form, it's also highly irrational, because his statements are not based on facts and scientific research. It's just his opinion, and the indexical meaning especially that counts, that makes his opinion clear. However, this tweet is of Wilders is still epistemic, I'm sorry, because it provides a sense of logic and rationality to those who subscribe to Wilders' idea. So those who follow him, for them it's actually epistemic, because they think the same way, and for them it's logic, and they think it's true. So it does have an epistemic value to his followers. Because of this, the battle on truth, or the battle of truth, has become very, very complex, because it also consists of fake news. And this model of micro-marketing leads to the fact that the propaganda model of linear communication doesn't work any longer. And as I said earlier, one could wonder if it ever really worked. At least the perception it created worked, but that's a whole other discussion. So the notion of algorithmic populism that Iko Mali came up with in 2018 is new. Algorithmic populism is new between the sender and the receiver that used to be linear, but now politicians such as Geert Wilders and make use of this new form of micro-marketing to address niche audiences. This is not always a good thing, because micro-marketing contributes to the notion of polycentric forms of communications. As I said earlier, in the public sphere is divided into many, many different audiences, each with different political normative systems. And the indexical meaning, such as in the Discourse tweet, appeal to particular niche audiences. On the one hand, those who agree with people like Wilders, and on the other hand, people who disagree. so I thought it would be nice to share some extra responses that were sent to Geert Wilders. So the first one says, bastard. He's basically disagreeing. Ronald van den Berg is responding, I am just arriving from the grocery store where I also saw Henkies and Ingrids who do not live up to the rules, so to the corona rules. And this is almost a sort like a form of intextualization, because he implies the same indexical meaning that Geert used back to him with a plural form of Henkies and Ingrids. Then Michael is responding with, oh, Geert, it would be nice if you could establish these statements with some facts, and therefore he's revealing basically that he is part of a niche audience that does not see his tweets as epistemic, because he's asking for facts and he doesn't believe him. Then a last example from Ila Rubio, who tweets, while Henk and Ingrid are partying in a small tent at the other side of the Kamer, this man continues to worry about immigrants on the intensive care, and he refers to an event at the day that more corona measures were taken by the president and the government. There was a party with Dutch people, like typical Henk and Ingrid people, who were not keeping distance. They were with too many people in the garden under a party tent, and Ila Rubio is basically referring to the fact that Henk and Ingrid also are, well, not even also, but that they were not living up to the rules. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see Ingrid, a typical Dutch Ingrid, who tweets, well, this Ingrid is living up to the rules for 8 months already and was super annoyed by the COVID idiots at the square yesterday night. So she's responding also to Rubio that she is an Ingrid who does live up to the rules. So they also both use the intextualization of Geert Wilders' tweets, and they confirm that they understood his meaning with it. And then Ingrid also uses like an aesthetic or creative thing of hashtag COVID idiots together in one word. So that's also nice, like an aesthetic form on Twitter. And under that you can see Ila Rubio like laughing and with the emojis responding to Ingrid that they are on the same track, like that their minds think alike. Okay, so I have come to the end of this presentation, a bit longer than I intended to do it, but I had sometimes a bit of difficulty with searching for words. However, I hope it was interesting. I really liked making this assignment at first, and it was also nice to talk about it in a more like loose way. So I really enjoyed that. And thank you for this course, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.